Small Operations Podcast, Episode 5, Weird Toys. Small Operations. Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the show. Small Operations is a podcast about teenage engineering, their stuff, and the people who make music with it. I'm your host, Field Plan. I'm super happy to be here with you guys for another episode. Today's show is going to feature background music by Lightfoot Beats. Lightfoot Beats is one of the illest producers that I've found anywhere, and he uses a PO33, among other things. The knockout pocket operator sampler, and the stuff you're hearing now is Lightfoot Beats just killing it on the knockout PO33. So you'll be hearing him throughout the show. So we got a seriously cool show today, not just one, but two guests. First, we'll talk to Neil Ritchie of Synthdawg.com, and he's the author of the OP1 notebook. Pretty excited to talk to him about his book, which is fantastic. And we'll also be talking to JohnnyBgood, who is an amazing musician and a wizard at the OP1. So I'm really excited to have a conversation with Johnny. A couple bits of information and news that I wanted to go over at the top of the show here. First off, I wanted to give a shout out to Lens Synth on Instagram for providing Small Operations with some amazing photography for me to use as little ads and little plugs on Instagram. Just amazing photography where he's taken some photos of the different teenage engineering instruments and made them look really nice. So I've been using those to kind of promote the show. Thanks to Lens Synth for that. Also want to give a shout out to Free the Beat Within on Instagram for a suggestion that I start posting the shows on YouTube. So I do intend to do that, and that'll be coming soon. Stay tuned for that. I'll let you know when that goes down. For 5 days in September, Teenage Engineering will have a presence at the London Design Festival. Looks like starting on the 16th of September. The TE crew will have a workshop at the London Design Festival, 17th, 18th, and 19th. Well, it looks like the 17th and 18th they're going to have jam sessions, so that actually sounds pretty cool. The 19th and 20th will be two more workshops. So if you're anywhere close to London, England, or anywhere in Europe where you can make it, or perhaps you're going to fly overseas to go check out the London Design Festival, go to Teenage Engineering's website and get some details on that. Maybe catch up with the crew from TE. Also in Teenage Engineering news, we have some updates over the past week or so. We have an update to the OP1. So you have firmware 237 is out. And from what I can tell, it looks like a stability update, but there are some other details here. Let me see. Yeah, so OP1 update, firmware update 237. Looks like shift plus stop keys. That'll toggle the high-res tape grid editing. When in external sync, sequencers are now started in sync with the beat. The bugs that are fixed are pattern sequencer didn't always play correctly from the when triggered from MIDI, so that's been fixed. Dropping a synth sample patch on a synth slot could, under some circumstances, generate an assert, and that's been fixed. When lifting clips from a loop, sometimes the cut was not perfect. That's been fixed. And with tape mixer mutes, we're not faded like tape solo is, so that's been fixed. So that's OP1 update 237. There's also an update for the OPZ, which is pretty exciting. OPZ is getting OS update 1.2.8. And it looks like that fixes a bug that would cause files to disappear or get corrupted, detect microphone signal from splitter adapters. That's pretty cool, probably for sampling and such. New input selection functionality in beta, and the TE website has more details on that on their support page, or their download page rather. New audio interface monitor mode, fix broken incoming program change handling, add continuous control from changing switching to next previous patterns. You can read more about it on the website. Make microphone mode work when USB audio is active. allow octave shifting on all tracks, and fix drone notes to work properly with legato. So that's OPZ Update 1.2.8. Find out more about the OP1 and the OPZ updates on the Teenage Engineering website. And if you guys need to know how to update the firmware or update the OSs on your OP1 or your OPZ, go to Teenage Engineering Support website, and there are instructions right alongside with the downloads that you can easily follow. It's not too bad if you haven't done it before. On episode 4, I think I mentioned that I was wanting to have you guys use your phone voice recorders or any kind of voice recorder you have to actually record some messages or thoughts, reviews, what have you, something, you know, that you can send to the show that I can play on the air if you have something that you want to get off your chest, talk about something, make a comment about the show. I still would really like for you guys to do that. I think it'd be a good way for listeners to share and have their voices on the show. David Sentioli at @dsentioli_art on Instagram actually hit me up recently, and he had the idea of, hey, why don't you ask people that are new to the world of teenage engineering, maybe people that have just recently got an OP1, OPZ, or maybe pocket operators, to share their experiences and how things are going as they're learning these new devices, as they're learning these new instruments. That's a fantastic idea, so I got to give props to David Sentioli. I would really love, if you're listening to this and you're new to the world of teenage engineering, maybe you just got a pocket operator, you're still figuring the thing out, get out your phone. If you're so inclined, you don't have to do this, no pressure, guys. I just think it would be cool. Record me a voice message on your phone and just tell me how it's going. You know, maybe you'll help inspire other listeners that are just getting started on these instruments as well. But I just think it is a good way to get more people involved in small operations. And one of the goals that I have for the show is to inspire, to get newer users to feel like they're part of something. This is a chance for you to do that, so please consider it. You can send any voicemail or voice message, memo, whatever you put together, send it to me at smalloperationspodcast@gmail.com. Try to keep it within a couple minutes or less if you can, just so it doesn't fill up too much space on the show. I'm already struggling to try to get everything that I want to into each show without making each podcast like a 4-hour show. So yeah, thanks guys. So first up, I want to play you an OP1 piece by Xavier Bonfill from Copenhagen, Denmark. This is sketch number 2. Again, that was sketch number 2 from Xavier Bonfill. Xavier Bonfill has an album called Travel Light, and it's on his Bandcamp, and I'll have the information about that in the show notes. This is an all OP1 album that he made while he was traveling in China and Hong Kong, so check that out. Next up, we got a tune from Greg Miles Lewis at Greg Miles L on Instagram. This is from his new album. It was just released under the artist name Greggy on the Moon. His album is on Bandcamp, and this is Catching a Wave from his album OP1 Vignettes Volume 1.
Cosoy in Buenos Aires. Reporter Natalio 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 Cosoy in Buenos Aires.
Who's in control of the escort? in control of the escalation.
So once again, that was Greg Miles Lewis with Catching a Wave from his new album by Greggy on the Moon. It's called OP1 Vignettes Volume 1, and it's available on Bandcamp. So this is a good time for me to share a conversation that I had with Neil Ritchie of Synthdawg.com. Neil is the author of the OP1 Notebook, which is an ebook about the OP1. It's kind of like an idiot's guide or like a guide for dummies to the OP1, but it's actually much more than that. It's a fantastic guidebook that really boils down all the how-tos for OP1 for both beginners, for newbies, and for people that have been using the instrument for a long time. So I for sure recommend that. So here's my conversation with Mr. Neil Ritchie of Synthdawg. Neil, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having me on the show.
So, Neil, I want to ask you right off the bat, why did you think that writing a book about the OP1 was necessary?
Yeah, good question. I actually didn't start by thinking I'm going to write a book on the OP1. Actually, what I started with is the OP1. Yep. And actually, it's quite a funny story because I got the device and I thought, this is fantastic, but I'm not sure what direction you can go in with this thing. So I went on a short vacation into a forest and basically took the OP1 with me. And I started making notes. And then one thing led to another, and it got to Christmas, and I decided to make the notes into a typed-up copy. And then that typed-up copy became more into a book. And then I realized that what I were writing were things that were a user's perspective. It were my kind of experience in using it and the things that I felt were important in what I would need to refer to in future. Mm-hmm. But also I then found that maybe other people would find this useful. So that's where it came from, really. Okay.
When you started out, was your goal, because I've made my own notes over time. When I started using the OP1, I'd do like a little notepad thing on my phone and I'd write down key points. Was your initial goal to do something for your own use, or was it like, oh, you know what, this is a good idea. This will actually help out a lot of people, and I'll do a book, or I'll do like a crib notes or something like that?
Yeah, it started out for my own use. Mm-hmm. But what you'll see in the book is that there's sections for people to have their own notes. Right. And that's because I felt that other people would probably have a different kind of perspective on something, or want to capture their workflow or something along the lines of, let's say, one of the synthesizers that we want to capture something around the presets or some of their own hints and tips. So in the last year, I've converted the books more into what I call a notebook and a guidebook and a reference book. So it gives people, the guidance and the reference if they just want to pick it up and use it for a few seconds, or if they want to read it through, or if people just want to make their own notes and then have their own personal copy. So it tries to be everything to the people that's using the device rather than a manual. Okay. And that's the thing as well, is that I think some manuals are written very much around the device rather than how the user gets the best from the device.
Right, and I think that your book actually has done that quite well. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about is the aesthetic, the design of the book itself. I find it to be very minimal, but really pleasing to the eye, and I think it makes it really inviting to actually break into the book, go through, find what you need, or actually read it cover to cover. So did you do the design work on that? Was that CAD that you actually did the illustrations, or how did that work?
Yeah, I did. And again, it's one of these things that grows arms and legs. Mm-hmm. That you start with a pile of notes, and you start with some words, and then suddenly you think, do you know what? It would make sense if you could illustrate this. I'm more of a visual person. What actually appeals to me is if I can see a picture of something. Right. And what caught my attention is that Teenage Engineering are a Swedish company. Electron are a Swedish company, and I found that some of the kind of Swedish Scandinavian companies, Nord, their documentation were a little bit difficult for me to understand. I reckon that people in other countries would find it even more difficult to understand. So I felt that I wanted to add, firstly, the step-by-step parts to it, but I also wanted some illustrations so people could just glance at it and get it straight away. So I did all the diagrams from bottom up. So I did everything new, nothing from the team, although the TE team have been very helpful, I have to say.
That's
I
cool.
wanted to do everything bottom up and everything kind of designed for purpose.
Did you have a lot of interaction with Teenage Engineering in terms of getting the book done, or permissions and such? Were they easy to work with, like you say?
Yeah, Teenage Engineer have been fantastic, and it actually fitted my kind of philosophy very well at that point in time, where they were very supportive. They would encourage and promote what I was doing. They would answer questions if I got any questions, but they weren't trying to steer it or trying to push it in any direction. They weren't trying to take over, the old philosophy. And in fact, since then we've kept a good dialogue. And like I said, they're very supportive, but very much in a kind of, from a distance, and I mean that positively, not trying to influence it in a direction that they want it to go. But I think that appeals to them as well, because I think we have to remember that part of, or the real value of the guidebook and this podcast, for example, is that it actually encourages a community to collaborate and work together and get to know each other and support each other.
Right,
and I think
right.
TE have actually spotted that, and I think they're really appreciative of the community that's been created around their products. So they support it very much that way.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly hope so. I mean, just as, my first episode that I came out with, which was more or less me rambling about why I was going to be doing the podcast, that was one of the messages that I wanted to get across is I'm a fan of these products, I'm a user of these products, and I wanted to do this to kind of broaden and enrich the community and give people something to really to assist them with their geeking out about the products. And I think if you're TE, you might be looking at this and you say, oh, wow, okay, so people are actually doing these sorts of things for our products and for our company. And I don't know, if it were me, I'd be somewhat flattered, I suppose. I hope that's the case. But in your case, the book is, in my opinion, and I've read it, and it's essential, regardless of if you're a newbie or someone that's been using the instrument for a long time. You definitely will be picking things up that you didn't know about before. I can guarantee that. So, folks, my guest is Neil Ritchie from Synthdawg.com, and that's synth.dawg.com, and he is the author of a fantastic book called the OP1 Notebook. So who did you really write this book for?
I wrote it for myself to start with, so it were my notes. But now I'm writing it for the community, dead square for the synth community, the people that are beginners, but also people that's had the device a while. And in fact, here's an interesting one for you. The amount of people that have emailed me saying, do you know what, I'd fell out of love with this thing. It's been gathering a little bit of dust, and I couldn't really understand how it worked, and it didn't really fit my workflow, and there were a lot of kind of, we're not sure where it fits in our, kind of studio. Right. And they've read the book and they've come back and said, you know what, I think I get it now. I'm not selling it when I plan to. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to give it another go. Yeah. And that's quite rewarding. So from a community perspective, that's really what inspires me, and that's really what I think the current, let's call it target audience, the community is currently where I'm writing for. And now when I write the books, as opposed to the few years ago when I started it, I'm very much thinking, what would the people do that needs it? What would the people really be looking for to get started on these things, or to actually get the best out of it if they've started a few years ago and they're still struggling a little bit? Right. So it's now very much for the community.
No, that's great. I mean, because for me, sometimes it's little things, like one little thing that you didn't know that the OP1 does, that just is enough to have you be like, holy crap, this thing is amazing. I need to just work this into my live set, what have you, recording process. It's just one little nugget, one little bit of information of something that you didn't know that it did, or something that you can maybe do easier, is enough to inspire you to start using the thing again. And Neil, as far as OPZ or OPZ and pocket operators, I know the tail end of your book, it includes a full section on the majority of the current pocket operator series and a how-to, kind of like a one sheet, which is fantastic. because those at times can be a little bit confusing to use. What are your plans for OPZ, and going forward for other TE devices like the modular series?
Yeah, the OPZ, whichever country you live in, is definitely on the agenda. And in fact, the biggest two requests that I've had is for Digitone, the Electron Digitone, and for OPZ. So OPZ is probably the next one on the list. There's two projects that are currently in progress, but OPZ will be the next one on the list after those. The modular devices I've not really thought through yet, and the requests and the demand for that has not been that much. There hasn't been that many requests. There's been a few, but not that many. So the direction that I'll probably go in is it will be based on what people want, rather than just some random selection. But there's a couple of things that I tend to use as a philosophy. The first one is it's got to be something that I own. So I don't want to just start to write about things that I have no love for. So it's something that has to have a place in my art, and then I can give it the best. So that's the first thing, and then the second thing is it's got to be worth writing about. So it's no good having something that's so easy to use that nobody would get the benefit from, or so difficult that the book would be 600 pages and then it'd take 5 years to release it, something like that. So it's got to fit a kind of niche. It's got to be enough substance to be able to give it more than what the manual is, and I've got to personally feel kind of attached to it. So OPZ definitely on the list, probably the next device after the two projects that's currently ongoing. I
mean, I feel like with the OPZ or OPZ, depending on which country you're from, I feel like with step components alone, a whole book almost the size of the OP1 notebook could be written about the functionality of the step components. So it's such a robust instrument. It's so tiny. The thing is so just like minuscule. It's such a little small piece of plastic, but it's so incredible the amount of things that it can do. And I'm barely scratched on the surface, but I'm already making music that to me is relatively pleasing. So I'm so excited about using that and getting to use it more and more with the OP1. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure the entire community would look forward to a book like your OP1 notebook for the OPZ. I think that'd be fantastic. So
hey, there's an interesting kind of thing. I'm old enough to remember the advent of the kind of desktop computer and PC and laptop, and I remember a computing device, ZX81 and the ZX80, the Sinclair things. And then when you bought them, they got 1K of memory or whatever, and you got a 16K expansion pack. And I always look at the OP1, the OPZ as a similar kind of thing. That almost the restrictions within the devices are what creates the creativity.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't give you the answers to everything you want, but you can find ways to achieve it. And I think that's what really brings the creativity out of these devices. It doesn't give you a button to do everything you want. You've got to find a way to do it. You've got to find. People say, "Oh, I found a workaround for," and I always smile when I hear that terminology, because I think workaround, actually, that's not a workaround. That is the creative process on these devices. That is how it is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's the workflow. And I think what's cool about teenage engineering is I think that design decision, as it were, was part of the goal. I mean, you hear them, sometimes when you hear people talk about why they did something or when they designed something, you feel like maybe they kind of like came around the back end and they're just kind of reconciling what this thing became, and then they're talking about what people's opinions are of it and how it maybe like filled a particular niche, or like in this case, well, was it just like economy of the equipment and the design itself that created this limitation that spawns creativity? I don't think so. I think that was there from the outset. You hear them when they talk about it very early on, talking about a particular knob doing multiple things, and the idea behind it is getting into it and making music quickly, and getting these ideas and just letting them kind of flow quickly. It's amazing. It's genius. And I really wish that, I know there's thousands and thousands of people that do see that,
man, there's so many haters on the internet when they look at these devices and they're like, I'm not going to spend, now $1,300 for a Fisher Price toy. Okay, if you want to consider it that's fine. But these devices, as those of us know who use them to make cool music, they're kind of genius, man.
Yeah, and I think that's true, and I think that sometimes you can't just put the price alongside the value.
Right.
What someone will see as value to them, others will see as no value.
Absolutely.
That's irrespective of the price tag.
Absolutely.
So, I think there'll always be haters for anything. But there's also a good enough community of lovers for the device as well, right, and all the things that TE are doing. So that's good too.
Well, in terms of value, I'm gonna make a little awkward segue here, but the value, your book is one of the cheapest, most rich things that you can buy, the most inexpensive yet rich things that you can buy related to a teenage engineering product, I have to say. For the amount, and it says on your website, and it's actually depending on where you buy coffee, it's even cheaper than a cup of coffee by a lot. You can get this wonderful book that will inspire you. It'll make it easy and inviting for you to use the OP1. I highly recommend this book. So it's available at Synthdawg, and dog is DAWG.com. What I wanted to ask you about, Neil, is what is the origin of Synthdawg.com? Where'd you get that name?
Well, I've got a dog called Taco, actually.
Taco,
and
nice.
He's a pug, and he's always in the way. He'll sit in the studio if I'm in the studio. He'll get everywhere. So he's always featured in the stuff that I've been doing in terms of being there. He can't play any instruments and he can't sing, but awesome. He's certainly around.
That's awesome.
And then the title I was going to use was Guide Dog.
Okay.
Then there were too many kind of links and too many kind of threads you could pull it into different directions. So I thought, let's just say what it is. Let's just say how it is on the tin. Synth. That's what it's all about. So.
I love it. No, I have a pug as well. I've got a little a girl pug named Donut. So, and she's actually, I don't know if anyone really listens close and can make it past some of the music you'll hear in the background on this, you might actually hear Donut kind of speaking in the background from time to time during this interview. I've been sitting here wincing, hoping that she's not coming through too much. But yeah, one thing about pugs is they're always with you. They're always at your feet, all the time. They want to be up and around you all the time. So, but
and we do have to name them after food. Yes,
absolutely. Well, in my case, my pug Donut, as her tail, as is yours, I'm sure, looks like a little cinnamon roll, Yeah. So it's that's Donut. So, but yeah, man. Well, Neil, I didn't want to take up too much of your time. It's a pleasure talking with you and speaking with you finally. I'm, super happy that we finally had the chance. The book is OP1 Notebook. It is cheaper, it's less expensive than a cup of coffee, folks. You should definitely check it out. It's an ebook. It will be an amazing tool to help you on your journey with the OP1, and it's available at Synthdawg.com. Again, that's Synth, DAWG.com. No hyphens, no spaces. Neil Ritchie, thanks so much for being my guest today, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. Thank you.
All right, take care, sir.
Neil Ritchie's a really great guy. I really had a good time talking to him, and I highly recommend that book, you guys. OP1 Notebook. Go check it out on his site. It's super cheap. It's really inexpensive, and it's definitely worth your while. You can make it like your handbook for the OP1. So if you're new to OP1, or even if you've been using it for a long time, you'll definitely enjoy reading it. So please support Neil by purchasing a copy of the OP1 Notebook. Once again, a shout out to Lightfoot Beats. Lightfoot Beats is doing the background music today, and he's the producer that made the stuff that you were hearing behind the interview with Neil. So this is an ambient piece done by Soulyft. This is Ambient Take 2, and this was done entirely on the OPZ. Again, this is Soulyft with Ambient Take 2. Pretty neat piece. Soulyft Audio is Soulyft's website, and I'll put that in the show notes. Please check out Soulyft and support. Next up, we've got Ale Fillman at OMG_ITZ_ale, ALE, on Instagram. This is our own type of slang, and this is made with an OPZ. It's from his album Barely Awake, which is on Apple Music, Spotify, and everywhere else. Again, this is Our Own Type of Slang by Ale Fillman.
We all got our own type of slang. It's like...
All right, you guys. Well, I'm very, very, very stoked to have this next guest on the show today, mostly because I love his music, and I'm very excited to be able to talk to him about it, more so than just kind of chatting or whatever on Instagram. JohnnyBgood, it's a pleasure to have you on Small Operations, man. Thank you so much for being on.
Man, I'm so stoked and honored to be on your show. I really am, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, dude, the pleasure is totally mine. Trust me, man. So I got to get right from the outset, man. I'm going to hit you hard with like serious question, okay?
I'm ready for it. Bring it on.
All right, dude. Who shot first? Was it Han or Greedo, man?
Dude, Han. Come on, man.
Okay, thank you so much, dude. Because otherwise, if you were like, I think it might be Greedo, I'd be like, okay, show over. We're done.
I know, right? Done. Thanks for having me. That was good.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in.
So where are you from, man? You're in Nashville?
Yeah, so I'm in Nashville right now. I was born and raised in New Orleans, but me and my wife live here in Nashville, and just doing the music thing.
Nice.
And we've been here for like a year and a half, but I lived here for like 2 years back in the day when I was like really grinding it out. Like it was like intense, like broke musician.
Yeah. So are you there like primarily for the music scene? Is that?
Yeah. So most of the people I work for live here. Like I just do like guitar and programming and stuff for other artists, and they all live here. So it just kind of made sense to be here, where everyone's at, and doing it in person, like collaborating in person, recording in person is just so much easier than remotely,
Absolutely. No, that's cool. And I mean, so are you playing in live bands? Are you doing sessions, or what's your day to day?
Yes. Yeah. So it used to be like on the road, like all the time, playing guitar. My main thing was guitar. But that was like my life since I was like 18, just every other weekend on the road. And then when I'm not, I was playing at a church. Those weekends I was home. But now it's like I am trying to transition off the road and do more studio stuff, which is awesome. Like I did like my last gig this summer, and I've been in town, and it's been awesome because I can actually go to the grocery and eat real food, which is nice. But But yeah. So it's been 50-50, but now it's more like studio work and production and really, like being a musician in Nashville, you kind of have to do everything.
Sure.
You know, so it's kind of like a little bit of production, a little bit of programming, OP1 stuff, which has been really cool, and then guitar, and then like the occasional gig in town, which is cool.
Okay.
So every now and then we'll do some live stuff.
Oh, that's cool. So you do actually get a chance to use like the OP1 for programming and for doing stuff for other people?
Yeah, actually, which is crazy because I kind of like, I feel like I'm one of maybe like 5 people that in Nashville that have a OP1, you know?
Yeah.
But I feel like there's maybe 1 or 2 of the people who are actually using the OP1 as like a tool in the studio, being like a session musician. You know, like you have your session guy who will show up with his guitar and pedals. There's nobody really doing that with the OP1. So I've been trying to like double down on that. So that's been pretty cool. That's been cool, like showing up to the studio. Yeah.
So like, what kind of reactions do you get, or are you actually getting called for that now? Like, hey, bring your little white keyboard thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, yeah, bring your what's it called? Some people call it like my bleepy blooper, my Game Boy, like, yeah. So I mean, just the other day I got a call, just a good buddy of mine. He's like, hey man, like we're doing this record. It sounds kind of like 90s retro stuff. Just come over and bring your OP1 and just throw down some weird noises, man. Yeah. So it's more like that, and because the OP1 does so many. It does drums, it does synth. So it's kind of like whatever you need, you know.
Absolutely, man. It really is kind of like the miracle device, right? I mean, it's so like, I don't know. I think Jeremy from Red Means Recording, he mentioned it was kind of like a fetish thing at first, and it really is, man. Like with me, I'm like, this thing does so much. It's almost like I have this reverence for it. It's like I feel bad touching you. You know what I mean? Right? But it does everything, man. There's so much to it. So
and that's what I tell people too when they're like, hey, should I get it? And I'm like, yeah, you should, because a lot of people go back and forth between that and maybe like a micro Korg or a mini log, and I'm like, bro, if you want everything, get the OP1, because it's not just a synth, you know, it does everything.
I think people trip sometimes on like the lack of like a touch sensitivity to the keyboard or what have you. But see, you know, the OP1, what it's missing in that department, it makes up for in its flexibility and the amount of things you can do with it. So I agree with you, man. I think it's so versatile. I mean, you can use it for so many things. You really, for the amount of money, people tripping on the $1,300 thing with the new price. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. But that was insane, man.
It is.
The internet blew up.
Man. That was like an incredible amount of hate that came out of that. But see, I'm like, I get it, but at the same time, it's almost like $1,300. I mean, people don't blink an eye to spend $2,500 or $10,000, what have you, for a guitar, like a Fender Stratocaster or something. But when it comes to like a little device that, I'm sorry, man, you're going to be able to make tons of music with, it's like $1,300. That's ridiculous. So, okay, well, you know what? It's not for everybody.
It's true. And I tell them too, those same people, I tell them that if you were going to buy a sampler and a 4-track tape recorder and a synth and a drum machine, like if you're going to buy all that together, you'd spend probably more than that, you know?
Totally. Really funny to me that it'd be like, I can't see spending $1,300 on a device like this, like a little toy. I'd much rather invest my money in like this and this and this and this. Right. And I'm talking about like $1,500 worth of shit, and it's like, okay.
Exactly.
Anyways, so I got to ask you, so like, what got you initially into the OP1, man? Why did you pick the OP1 as something to mess with?
So I'm gonna say it was 100% Red Means Recording, man. I got into the finger drumming thing with the machine first, and that was kind of like my thing. I saw Junkie Cat. He was a cool dude. He's the guy for that stuff. Junkie Cat and Datsun is another finger drumming guy. both use machines. So that got me into finger drumming thing. And then literally it was like the related video things on YouTube. One of those was Red Means Recording. And I'm like, what is this little thing? And I got sucked into the black hole, man. And it got to the point where like, it was for a few years, I would watch these videos and I would like just research it and like look at the manual. Like, I didn't even have the thing. I was like looking at the manual. You know what I mean? I mean, you were probably...
Same as me. Oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah,
dude,
it's an obsession, right?
Yeah, I was crazy. You asked my wife. I was like completely crazy, obsessing over the thing. And like, again, it was just like this fetish thing. I had to touch this thing, you know? And I hear you on that, man. I hear you on that. Well, so like as far as the OP1 goes, like when you got the thing, because I had seen a lot of the videos where you'd done finger drumming work with machine and everything. Was it a big drastic change, like when you actually got the thing in front of you, where you're like, oh, okay, so there's this now?
Well, so like the functions and the way it worked, like I was totally cool, man. As soon as I got it, I opened the sequencer and the synth, and like I was ready to go. But when it came down to actually playing on it, I was like, I feel like a baby. What I can't do, like, what's happening? So like, because as you were saying earlier, the fixed velocity thing, that's that's crazy. I mean, I've never played with anything like that. So I would try to finger drum on it, and I just sucked. Like, it was awful. It was such a humbling thing. I'm like, why can't I do what I do on the machine on this? So that took lots and lots of practicing, and I even went out on the road with a guy to do that, to just finger drum on the OP1, and there were a lot of mistakes on stage, and I learned a lot from that. It was like a whole month tour, and like that definitely got me to where I am finger drumming wise on the OP1. Just like show after show, just trying to like zone in on this tiny little thing, you know?
Yeah. Now, dude, see, that's like so inspiring to me that you're actually using the OP1 as a live performance device. Because that was going to be my questions for you, dude, is like how many shows or how many performances have you actually had a chance to use OP1 in? And it sounds like you've done it quite a bit.
Yeah. So it started out as like I would go on my main gigs playing guitar, and I would tell the guy, the artist, whoever I'm with, hey, like, if you want, I could do an opening set for you with the OP1. I could drop some beats, whatever your vibe is, I can open up for you. Yeah. So it started like that, and then it would be like, hey man, leave that on stage so you can play that during the set. Like, we'll find a place for it, and then after that, it started to be just that and not guitar. So,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, totally. That's amazing, man. That's like kind of the dream.
Yeah, no, and it totally. And I felt incredibly blessed that I was able to do that. And but it's so incredibly hard. Like, it got to the point where it was the OP1, and then I was doing stuff with the machine in my left hand and the OP1 in my right. And it got to the point where the OP1 was just loops. And it got to the point where I can't finger drum and I have to do loops because I'm playing bass with the machine or something, or the other way around, you know?
So you're multitasking there. You're quite literally with each hand, you're performing with a different device.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's insane.
It's a mind trip, man. And it takes lots of practice. And I messed up a lot a lot.
You are a guitar player primarily, right? That's your main.
Yeah, that's my main thing. And that's why I studied jazz guitar in high school and a little bit in college while I did audio engineering. But I didn't stick with it. Like, I did not stick with the jazz guitar thing. I love jazz and it's still an influence, but man, I can't do half the things I used to be able to do on guitar.
That's my main jam. Is I'm a saxophonist.
That's right.
Jazz is my main deal, man. So respect.
Dude, hell yeah.
But so for me, I'm kind of here's one of my struggles when it comes to electronic music versus the acoustic music. So as you know, with playing jazz guitar, for the saxophone, there's like a constant battle to find enough time to practice and maintain your chops, build your chops and all that stuff. But then you also have this like sexy little piece. Right. Now there's like multiple sexy little pieces now that I'm like rocking OPZ as well. And they're just like, hey, play with us. Just upset. And you can go over to these things and you can make like instantaneous music and come up with ideas. And it's not that you don't want to go like touch your guitar and play your guitar, or like with me with the horn and all that, but it's like, how do you find the time to balance I want to say practicing or just getting acquainted and staying acquainted with both of those things? Is that tough?
Totally, 100%. I did a guitar gig the other day, and I'm trying to do stuff I would normally do, and I'm like, why aren't my fingers doing it? And it's because I haven't touched it in forever, you know? I have like a once a month standing gig here in Nashville where I play guitar, and every time I do that, it's like I was like, I should have practiced today, man. I should have warmed up my fingers, like my calluses are gone, you know, like it's and my friends back home in New Orleans would be so mad at me because that was the thing, man. Like we would jam on guitar and play blues and funk and jazz, and now I'm playing electronic music, and it's hard to balance that for sure.
No, I can definitely feel that, man. Like I had a gig last weekend. I played a gig, and you know, so I'm using the OPZ for that gig to kind of lay it down. I was using Ableton and just kind of triggering samples and stuff, and then I was playing my horn, which is like a whole nother challenge, because then it's like you got this thing in your mouth, and you're playing this and you're doing that, and it's like I kind of realized in the moment, like, you know, with the horn, it's like your embouchure, you know, your mouth. It sounds kind of like innuendo. Like the stamina, you know, just being able to like it, you know, it's like
100%,
it's like the calluses on your fingers in a way. Right. And it was just like I kind of noticed a little bit, and just like my stamina and like my air supply, and I'm going like, I've been like really screwing with the OPZ too much.
And I have mad respect for any kind of wind player, like horn players, like, dude, like, because you're using your diaphragm and all these muscles, like, I mean, I could not try. I couldn't even pick it up. You know what I mean?
I enjoy your tutorials, and I enjoy your stuff where you reach out to fans and you kind of show people how to do stuff. But one of the things that I'm really impressed by is your sample packs and stuff that you make, you know, and share, because I really like, hey, you know, JohnnyBgood, you know, this is his sample pack and this is what I made. That's really cool, man.
Dude, that is awesome to hear, man. I'm literally throwing, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just seeing what sticks, you know, like, I'm just like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm like, I think this is what my people want, so I'm going to put it out there. And, you know, I try to see what people like and what they want more of. And like, I put out that ambient sample pack because the last time I put out a sample pack was more the music that I want to make, like very like Sean Wasabi type, you know what I mean? Very glitchy and, you know, bubbly. And I think people use that sample pack, but most of my followers do the ambient thing. And I love all that ambient music. And so I'm like, you know what, I have to do this. Like, I need to make something that my people like and want to use and be proud of it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's got to be like a really good feeling to put something like that out there. I mean, it's always nice to make music and have people appreciate your music.
Totally.
When you do something like that, where it's like part of your craft and like the journey that you take to make the music, and then you're sharing it with other people, like in this case with the sample packs, hearing what other people do with your ideas, that's like a mind-blowing thing. That's like another level, right? Because you're
totally. And for me too, it's more about like investing in your listeners, investing in your followers, whatever you want to call it, like your group, your people, you know, like if you're trying to put your music out there and you're not talking to every single person who's commenting and messaging you, like then what's the point? Like, you are shooting yourself, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like you have to invest in your people, man, you know?
It's really like a cool feeling to know that you're using stuff that someone else actually put together.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Like, you know, it's something that I've never done it, but to me as an artist, to see people using stuff that I've kind of curated, I mean, that would be just like a super high, man.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, and that's the thing, and there's like so many sample packs out there. There's so many 808 sample packs.
You know, it's hard to be creative, but also be original. And I think part of that struggle is just kind of letting go a little bit and just doing what you do. And like you said, just throw everything out there and just see what sticks, you know, because a creative person in general doesn't have a problem with being creative. It's almost like the getting out of bed aspect. Like, what am I going to do here? And I think the folks that are more productive, like yourself, you just do it. And you get it out there, and then people will ultimately, it'll stick, and people will appreciate that. So totally. I dig that. I can hear it in your music, you know.
Thanks. Yeah.
There's like you know, F it, I'm just going to do this. I'm putting this out there.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. Like the stuff that you do is like, it's some of the most appealing stuff, you know, because I love melody. I'm a horn guy.
Oh, yeah.
Melody.
Yeah. Totally.
So
that's the jazz thing, man. Like, because man, I really appreciate you saying that. And I appreciate people who notice that, because what I'm trying to do is bring more musicianship and more musicality to electronic music, like being from a jazz background, you know what I'm saying? Like I used to look at these people who do this and I'm like, man, like those DJs are just pressing buttons, whatever. And then I got into it and I'm like, yo, like there's so much more going on here, you know? There's so much more. So I'm trying to push that a little bit further, you know? And like my videos, like I don't quantize what I do, man, because I want people to see that, hey, this is live and we're humans and we make mistakes, and I'm trying to bring more musicality and you know, more humanism in this, you know?
It's pretty clear that you're doing so, and you're knocking it out of the park, dude. You're achieving that. So no worries there.
Yeah.
I mean,
thanks, man. I appreciate that, dude.
No. Stuff that you do is very, very good stuff. That's why it's kind of like, you know, to hear more of it, you know, for all of us would be a treat. So in terms of musicality, some of the things that I've noticed that you like to do is actually doing a direct line into the OP1 with like a guitar or bass or what have you.
Yeah.
How's that going? Are you still doing that?
Yeah, and it's tricky because like you just have the preamp in your OP1, and I try to make it to where the camera can see everything I'm doing. Like, look, like I'm not running anything else, and if I am running, like here's the pedal I'm running, you know, before the OP1. But I just got this new Line 6 pedal, the HX Stomp, and that has everything in it. Like it has the amps and stuff. So I think the next thing I want to do is run that before the OP1, because I ran it after and it sounds cool, but I want to run it before and plug my guitar or bass into it, because it would just make it sound so much better. Because going dry into the OP1 is so rough, man. Like your tone is all on your fingers like at that point, you know?
Absolutely. No, trust me, I totally know. Yeah, I mean, so to actually have a preamp or some sort of like effects device or something up front, you're wetting your guitar or bass or what have you, so that it kind of softens it a little bit and gives it a little bit more of a guitarish or bassist feel when it goes just hard and dry into that OP1. So yeah, that's actually, I mean, just kind of like an offhand good tip for the listeners, right? For people who have thought about doing this or maybe were inspired by watching some of the stuff that you've done. I really dig the idea of actually going through the device. That's pretty damn. And it's minimal.
Right? Oh yeah, I love the minimal thing, man. Like I've been selling so much of my gear, man, because I need the minimal thing, man. You know. And what's crazy is we get into that stuff. We get into the whole like I need to make my guitar sound cool before it hits the OP1. I'll bring my OP1 to a session, and the producer will be like I'll be like, I'll have my pedal board with me, I have everything with me. I say, oh no, dude, just go direct. And I'm like, wait, you don't want any of this cool stuff I brought? Like, nah, man, just try, just go direct. I'm like, okay, you're the guy, you know.
So like from an audio engineering standpoint, and you know this, right, from your education, like everyone, like when it comes down to engineers, they want to get like that ultimate clean signal. They're always, right? Sweating like the little hums and noises and stuff. Just give it to me dry, man. Give it to me dry.
Yes, and I've been on both sides, because I was the guitar player and I bring all my gear and like, oh man, no, we're gonna go dry. I'm like, do you know what that's gonna sound like? No amp, no pedals, like it's gonna suck, man. He's like, no, trust me. And then now I'm on the other side of that. Now I'm the engineer and producer, and then I see what it's like. I'm like, okay, you have all this awesome outboard gear that you can reamp with, and you make it sound really good, you know. So I guess that's another tip. Just trust the producer, man. If you're at a session, they know what they're doing. And just play your best, you know.
Effects pedals, Johnny. What's up with effects pedals? OP1 into effects pedals. You got any like good stories or experience with doing that and stuff that you like to use?
Yeah. So when I'm doing live stuff, a lot of times I use the OP1 for pads, and I'll run the OP1 through a Strymon timeline and a Hall of Fame reverb. And honestly, any delay, any reverb, it can be like a $20 delay in reverb, doesn't matter. As long as you can dial it in nice and wet and get the pad sound on the OP1, you know, just kind of sustaining, dude, like you're good to go. Like that is, I mean, you can do so much with just that.
That's
you know?
pretty much, that's exactly what I use. I have a Hall of Fame and I have a Boss RV6, and I just go I've got like a cheap Behringer mixer, and I just do like a send and return, and I put both the OP1 and OPZ through those.
That's awesome.
All the way up, just make it super wet and super long, and then I just kind of pepper it in and out.
That's all you need, man. And you don't need crazy expensive pedals, man. Like I'm a huge believer in exhaust everything you can do with the gear you have. Exhaust it. You know what I mean? And then when you hit that wall, then you can buy another pedal or synth, or
It's like, so, man, a buddy of mine, a drummer I used to play with, Tony, he used to call pedals candy bars, just because of like, you know what I mean? Like they're just so like so much eye candy to them, and there's just so many cool pedals and so many things out there. It's like, holy crap, like I need to be like a rich person to be able to afford all this stuff. But
yeah, I don't know how they do it, man. Because I come from the church world where all the lead guitar players in church have massive pedal boards, man, and they're always using the coolest, craziest, newest pedal. And I couldn't keep up. I could not keep up with buying the next thing. So I'm like, I'm just gonna make what I have sound good. And if you don't like it, then whatever,
I feel like at a certain point, like the army of pedals thing, especially like in I guess you'd call it like a worship setting or whatever, right?
Right.
Like a lot of times from experience and friends that I know have done stuff with this, you're using so many pedals, you're almost trying to emulate like an ambient, like a pad type of thing, and you're kind of like going towards like a keyboard type of sound, right? And
you start stepping on the keys player's toes, and
man.
He's like, oh no, man, I got this. I got the pads. You do the guitar thing.
Because I for years I messed with the guitar and stuff too, man, and I did a band where we were doing like a very like a slow dive type of ambient sound and all that, and I was like fancied myself less a guitar player, more of just like a guitar user.
I love that.
Yeah, no, that's
cool.
because I love ambient stuff.
Totally.
And so that's kind of where my mind goes when I think of like guitar pedals and stuff. I always think of like, how can I just make this sound huge, and like
that's so interesting. So you're coming at this as a more of a sound designer.
Yeah.
Right? Not so much a guitar player, but how can I make this sound with these tools?
Yeah, because I was never really like a super good guitar player, and I wasn't like, I wasn't a self-taught guitar player and everything. I came up playing saxophone from a little kid, so that's like my main deal. But in and out of it over the years and the guitar experimentation period and being in a band and doing all that stuff, for me, my sound was to kind of cop that like big, blurry, reverby sound.
Oh, yeah.
But as it turns out, I love it no matter what instrument it comes from, because now I do that with my horn. You know what I mean?
Right.
I love making walls of sound, but I also, when it all comes down to it, I listen to the sounds that I make with these things, whether it be back in the day with the guitar or with the sax, and I go, I can do so much more with like the OP1, man. And I can loop right on it, and I can create these sounds. That's why I just fell in love with the OP1,
totally.
So I don't know. I wish more people would give it a chance. I know it has like a very toy-like appearance, but I want more people just experience the thing, and I think that's happening a little by little. Over time.
I think so. I think because especially all these Instagrammers are doing such drastically different things with it, and it just does so much. And there's something for everyone. I think you said that earlier. There's something for everyone with the OP1.
I don't know. Have you messed with the OPZ at all?
It looked super cool when it came out, and I just recently got to try one out. And it's cool. I didn't fall in love with it the way I fell in love with the OP1.
Right.
Yeah, it's a different thing. I feel like it's more, and let me know if I'm correct about this. It's more of like a pocket operator, but like a badass awesome. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the sequencer is like awesome, way more sounds.
Yeah.
It's more of a sequencer, right?
It's 100% a sequencer. I mean, right down to the fact that it does more than audio, right? Because you can actually, and I don't even touch any of that, but like you can control lighting with it, DMX lighting. You can do like video, and it lets you do, which I'm actually kind of interested in that for a live show thing, maybe in the future, doing projections and stuff. What I like about it is for playing live and for multitasking, it's really immediate in terms of, if you're just into experimental stuff and you're not necessarily if you don't necessarily have a master plan to recreate songs like perfectly every time, it really lets you just kind of pick the thing up and start button mashing to start. And the sequencer, depending on your elections for what types of sounds you're using and stuff, the sequencer will take you to a place where then you can add to that and fine tune it. So it happens the same way like when you're jamming on an OP1, but the sequencer, I mean, it's a sequencer. I mean, it really keeps things together and makes it coherent quickly, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and that's such a healthy thing too, to just start button mashing it and just create something out of nothing just for the sake of it. You know, I that's something I need to do more of, man. Like, cause like you were saying, I have this like idea and I'm like, okay, this needs to sound crisp and like radio, like, you know what I'm saying? Like it needs to have a certain sound, but man, like if I had an OPZ, I feel like it would liberate all of that, you know?
Well, don't look to change up what you got going, because you've got a sound and the ideas that you come up with are really, really good, man. So don't reinvent too much, but you know, getting a little bit of liberty in that way, in terms of just being able to kind of get crazy and experiment with sounds and make things sound funky, that never hurts in general. You know what I mean?
Dude, I'm so into that, man. That's something I need to do more of. Like being in producer world, it's so it's because I do like commercial stuff too, and that is a super crisp. Like there's a formula for that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I have to get out of that, man. Sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Like I have to get out of that and just like mess around with a synth, you know? just get like weird. But see, weird doesn't, like, this is one of the things like in experimental music that I have struggled with personally and with others over time, is my thing is experimental music doesn't always have to be like ugly or weird. Like experimental music can also be very pretty. Like if I do the button mash thing I'm talking about, so let's say I pick a particular key and I throw up like a Rhodes piano sound with like some effects on it, and I just start button mashing to the point where it creates chords, and then I react to those chords. Like I might do a piece where I'll throw down a couple chords that are just almost nonsensical and really loosely paying attention to tonality, and then it creates something, and then I try to follow it with the horn. I am so inspired by you. I'm so inspired by Jeremy Blake, by Cuckoo. I mean, so many people. Like Heyman, you know about Heyman? Like she's kicking my ass right now. Dude, she is killing it. Like absolutely killing it. She's getting reposted by like Korg and Teenage Engineering and everything. And I'm just like, you freaking go, man. Like that's awesome.
No, I definitely props to her, because I just love listening, because it's so ethereal, and that's like, I love that type of sound. I absolutely love it.
And that's another good example of someone who's also investing in their followers, man. She'll repost things like crazy, just of people who sound awesome, who inspires her, you know? And like, I think that's awesome. I mean, that's the way to do it, man. If you're going to make music, you have, it's a community thing, right?
Oh, absolutely, man. That's part of the idea behind, you know, doing this podcast is the community. And I'm hoping that I can use this to kind of, in my own way, being that I'm not as prolific as others, fit into this community and just share my love for these instruments. And I've had a couple people already ask me, why are you kind of narrowing it down to TE stuff? Why don't you talk about like modular stuff or just other keys? Or for me, it's because I'm a dork, man. You know, I'm like that guy that like Apple sells shit to. I'm the guy that is a sucker. I love good design.
Same here, man.
You know, I grew up like a toy fan, you know, and I just love like kitschy, well-designed, functional things that are like candy. And to me, TE is the epitome of that. So that's why I just, you know, I mean. Yeah.
Well, did you see the play date thing? Yo, that looked.
The crank.
With the crank. Speaking of like, you know, weird toys that just are sexy. That's cool, man. It looks like a Game Boy. It's yellow. It's got a cool screen.
Love the look of it, and I mean, I'm all over that, man. Because that's the other thing too, is just design in general. The TE, as far as Teenage Engineering is concerned, like the designs that they have for other things.
Right.
I'm a fan of all of it so far, and I really want to touch on that on the show. Not necessarily always about music. For instance,
Right.
I'm really psyched about the IKEA stuff that they're.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm waiting for that. I can't wait for that to come out because
we all are.
Yeah.
They've announced it a while ago, and
it's been a while, man. So that's one of the things. Like, if I'm lucky enough to talk to those guys at some point, I'm gonna be grilling them. Like, where's my IKEA stuff, man?
Dude, I hope you do, man. I hope you get to talk to them. That would be awesome.
It's part of the quest, man. It's part of the quest. So guys, Johnny Be Good. You can find his stuff on YouTube. You can find his posts on Instagram. He's JohnnyBgood89 on Instagram, but on YouTube you could find his videos just under Johnny, the letter B, Good. Look for his stuff. Geek out on it. Just vibe, because the music that he does it's almost a little bit too good how good it is. It's scary how good this guy's stuff is, man. So, I mean, like, super endorsement from Small Operations. I just love the guy's stuff. But hey, dude, how's the quest for the Super Nintendo games going?
Bro, it's awesome, man. I have 3. Dude, I gave away my whole collection to my little brother, and I don't want to take it back. Like, that's a thing that I've passed down. So now I'm starting from scratch, and it's cool. It's a cool thing to start from scratch,
Because you probably had like a whole bunch of carts and some of the things that you're like, yeah, it's good. But now you can just like boil it down,
Yes. Only the good stuff. Yeah. And by the way, I appreciate your T-shirt, man. Did you wear that just for me, the Star Wars shirt?
Dude, repping.
I love it, man.
I have to say, I've got like most of my T-shirts are like Star Wars related or just blank. So I mean,
as well they should be, man. As well they should be.
So did you get any of the Star Wars Super Nintendo games yet back, or?
Dude, not yet. That's the next thing. I'm about to hit up a used bookstore here in Nashville. Hopefully this weekend. I am going to clean them out, bro. Any Star Wars Nintendo game is going to be mine.
I loved the stuff that you did with actually using like Zelda sounds and stuff.
Oh yeah, dude. Yes, I really want to do more stuff like that now that I have this Superboy. Oh my God, I'm like so inspired by that stuff.
I love it, man. Like the chiptunes thing for me, like I love chiptunes, but I also love using like game sounds in with other music. Like that's a lot of the music that I've done in the past has that type of thing going on. So I love when you've done, man.
Dude, thank you so much. That's my passion. That thing is my passion. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I want to do more of.
Yeah, man. No, for sure. Well, dude, so we could probably do like a 4-hour interview, and I want to get into like 2 hours with Star Wars talk with you, but we'll save that.
We should start our own Star Wars podcast. That's what we'll do.
Probably have to do that at some point, man.
Let's do it.
Johnny, man, it's been a pleasure talking to you, dude. Thank you so much for being on Small Operations, man. I truly appreciate your time, man.
Thank you, man. I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much, bro.
That was a ton of fun. I've been wanting to talk to Johnny Be Good for such a long time. He's such a nice guy and he makes amazing music. You guys, please support Johnny Be Good. Follow him on Instagram at JohnnyBgood89. And on YouTube, his YouTube channel is just Johnny Be Good. Fantastic stuff. The guy has tons of talent, so please check it out and support. So let's listen to Johnny B doing his song OP Wonderland live in one take, and this is available. You can watch it on YouTube. Christopher Bolta is a producer making music under the name BØLT, and this is his tune Remembrance, which is done with the Teenage Engineering OPZ. Remembrance by BØLT, and you can find out more about BØLT at BØLTtracks.com. Follow him on Instagram at BØLT.wave, W-A-V. Yeah, I'm really loving the stuff that Christopher Bolta does as BØLT, so please check him out. Now you're listening to an amazing ambient piece by Hainbach. This is called Homeward Bound, and Hainbach made this using a dictaphone, a piano, FX Deformer, a Strymon timeline, and an OP1. We've been listening to Homeward Bound by Hainbach. Find out more about Hainbach at hainbachmusic.com and check out Hainbach's YouTube channel. It's amazing. I'm sure you probably already have, but if you haven't, go check out Hainbach, guys. Now up, this is a really cool track by my boy Brad Tennant. This is Brad Tennant's Jam number 71. I really love Brad Tennant's style. So again, that was Brad Tennant, Jam 71. Brad Tennant is at brad.tennant on Instagram, and he has a YouTube channel. Go check out Brad Tennant. Josh Johnz somewhat recently put out an album made entirely with the PO33 Knockout, which is really getting a huge following of producers that are using the Knockout to make their music. So it's fantastic. So this is Josh Johnz. This song is called Using. That's nice stuff. Again, Josh Johnz. The song was called Using. Check out this album. It's available on Apple Music and Spotify and all that. But what's really cool is if you look at the album, the song titles. I'll just leave it at that. Go check out his album, Josh Johnz. The album is called 8-Bit Dirt Box Volume 1. And you take a look for yourself. Pretty neat.
Here we go.
Next, we got Suke-Rock. This is Suke-Rock's tune Re-Edit, and it's made with a Pocket Operator 33 and a PO 28.
Let's go.
Dope stuff. So that was Suke-Rock with Re-Edit, and Suke-Rock made that with a PO 33 and a PO 28. I'll put Suke-Rock's Instagram on the show notes so you guys can find out more about the music. And folks, it's been kind of a long show. That's really all the time we have for today, but it's been a blast as always. I want to kind of round things up by giving a major shout out for all the love and for the support to the OP1 and Chill crew on Instagram, basically for blowing me up and for supporting small operations and helping me grow the listener base. Thank you so much to you guys. I look forward to a future show where we're going to definitely be chatting it up and talking more about OP1 and Chill. Small Operations is an unofficial podcast about teenage engineering. Not affiliated with the company in any way, just a super huge fan, and I wanted to do something to kind of be a part of this community and help grow the community. I would ask you guys once again, if you have anything that you want to share with the show, please send me an email at smalloperationspodcast@gmail.com. I would love it if you'd record something, maybe a voicemail message or something, and just send it to me in email. It's real easy. Just use your phone, do a voice memo, record a message, maybe under a couple minutes or so, send it to me, and maybe I can play it on the show. So thanks again to everybody for supporting the show and for listening and subscribing. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to the show at your favorite podcast service. I would greatly appreciate it. If you're so inclined, leave a review on iTunes or Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you can leave a review. That would totally help me out as well. Thank you so much to my guests, Neil Ritchie, Synthdawg.com, and JohnnyBgood for being on the show. And once again, thanks so much to Lightfoot Beats for the lo-fi hip-hop that you've been hearing throughout the show that he produced on a PO 33 Knockout. Check out Lightfoot Beats on Instagram at Lightfoot Beats. I'm really looking forward to episode 6. We've got some more great music to share. We've got an interview and first product review, actually. So that's going to be cool. Until then, guys, take care, small ops. Small operations.